Meet my new friend Patrick. Originally from Northern Ireland, Patrick has embraced a truly international lifestyle, living in various parts of the world before ultimately settling in the Philippines, where he has spent the past 6 years. Among all the places Patrick has visited and lived, the Philippines holds a particularly special place in his heart. During our conversation, we talked about what sets the Philippines apart from other countries, Patrick's experiences jumping into the stand-up comedy scene in the Philippines, his struggles in learning Tagalog, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoy the video. So what year did you move to the Philippines?
I moved in January 2019.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from Northern Ireland, but first 8 years of my life I grew up in Spain, but I've lived in a few different countries. I've lived in UK, as in Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland. I've lived in Mexico, Germany, Spain, and now here.
Oh wow, so you've kind of been all over the place. And then what was your initial motivation for moving to the Philippines?
I've always found, because I've traveled a lot, I've been to about 40 something countries. When I was 29, I took a year off work and did a trip around the world. So yeah, I got here for vacation in 2017. I felt very comfortable with the Philippines. Obviously, they don't do winter here. I don't like winters. The way everyone speaks English and how everything is in English. If you have to go to a government office, do anything, road signs, everything's in English. And pretty much every Filipino has a decent level of English. And the sort of like the really professional workplace Filipinos living in the city, generally their English is better than most English people. So it's very, very, very high level.
Mm-hmm. So the Philippines kind of checked a few of those boxes for you. Of things
Yeah,
that you were looking
warm,
for.
hot. You're quite welcomed as well as a foreigner visiting here. So it's generally quite welcoming and quite easy to integrate with Filipino people and culture. It's not a huge culture shock as well, especially coming from Ireland and used to Spain. So, and staying in Mexico, even though I'm an atheist myself, are sort of the foundations of our society. They've kind of been built on Catholicism and Christianity or whatever else. So, which is the same here. So very much the culture's been built on that. So when you get here, it's not like visiting, a Muslim country or India or anything like that. So the culture is very, very similar. It's not a culture shock at all. It's a very easy transition.
Mm-hmm. And did you find it easier to integrate in the Philippines than like say Australia or Spain or Mexico?
A little bit, mainly because in Spain, the place I stayed is quite a small town anyway. The Spanish can be a bit cliquey there. But generally, unless your Spanish is perfect, it's very difficult to integrate with the Spanish in some areas.
Are you interested in learning Tagalog but having trouble finding quality learning materials? Allow me to introduce my Beginner's Tagalog course. 8 years ago, I began teaching myself Tagalog, but I got really frustrated, not only by the complexities of the language, but also the lack of resources for Tagalog. So that's why I decided to create the language course that I wish I had when I started learning. Sign up for my beginner's bundle and get lifetime access to 18 video lessons with corresponding PDF vocabulary sheets. Click the first link down below to get started. Now, back to the video. I've heard people say that too about like other countries in Southeast Asia, like, Vietnam or Thailand or something like that. And depending where you are, it can be harder to get by speaking English because it's not necessarily widely spoken by everybody like it is in the Philippines. Like, for all intensive purposes, the Philippines is essentially an English-speaking country. It has English as one of the official languages, right, beside Filipino. And so it's like the language barrier is much less of a hurdle than it might be even within other countries in Southeast Asia. I've heard lots of people say that.
Americans are aware of the Philippines, but being in UK and Ireland, when people think of Asia and nice islands and beautiful country, they always think Thailand. And then when you mention the Philippines, people just don't know much about it or never think about it or never think of going. So for UK and Ireland, Thailand is very much in their minds, whereas Americans, Philippines is more in their minds.
The Philippines has a longer history, I think, with the US as well, because it used to be an American colony, right?
Yeah, basically colony. So they had a military, late 1800s, early 1900s, they'd set up a American military style government. So they had, generals and majors and, working in government.
That is one of the reasons that English is so kind of prolific in the Philippines, right? Is the American influence as well as why basketball is like essentially the national sport in the Philippines. And,
yeah.
I mean, even the jeepneys, I think, came from old like military jeeps from the American Army, I think.
Yeah, they just reused them. Yeah, the Philippines are the third shortest nation in the world. So the first two, I can't remember which orders, is Bolivia and Indonesia. And then third is Philippines. and then basketball is their favorite sport. So
It's an unusual combination, isn't
yeah,
it? You wouldn't
yeah. I
expect
wish they
that.
played football, but
Yeah, because even in the US, I mean, basketball is very popular, but it's only the people that are like the tallest that are playing it, right? It's not
yeah.
even short Americans aren't playing it really.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So
quite a few Filipinos have said to me, "Oh, you're very tall. Do you play basketball?" And I said, "No, I'm 6'1". I'm very short, so
you're about average, kind of like in Northern Ireland, maybe.
above average height. But no, for a basketball player, you need to be 2 meters or 6'6" to even think about basketball as like. So I'm pretty short for basketball.
Before you went to the Philippines, did you have any like perceptions about it? Did you know anything about the country before arriving?
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of the beaches. The beaches here would be better than Thailand. I'd say one of the biggest surprises is when you get here, just how modern things are. Years ago, I did have a YouTube channel, so I did do a sort of walking tour of BGC. Some Filipinos were commenting, "Oh, thanks for showing this side of the Philippines. People just think we're all nipa huts and coconut trees." So yeah, that's probably the main surprise.
Yeah, I think there can be some negative perceptions of the Philippines that it's like, oh, it's very dirty and it's this and that. I mean, I've even told that to people that I know, like, oh yeah, I want to go to the Philippines, and sometimes people say, well, why do you want to go there? And if people have that reaction, I know right away that they've never been there. They're just judging from afar, right? So, how long did you say that you've been in the Philippines for?
6 years.
Wow. Okay. So in the 6 years, you've spent most of those in Makati and then just kind of vacations to other places in the Philippines, or have you lived elsewhere in the Philippines as well?
No, I've been totally in Makati for the 6 years, settled here. Yeah, just thinking about the misconceptions as well. So about it being modern. So in 2019, my girlfriend, I mean, her level of English is top 0.1% of any country. So yeah, she went to international school here. She also went to school in Hong Kong, university in New York and stuff. So she has a brilliant vocabulary, very well spoken. And so we're on a video call with my friend from Ireland. So I was trying to convince him to divorce his wife and come out to the Philippines. He was miserable. So she was on the video call with me and she's like, it's more fun in the Philippines, Patty. Come on out. And he's speaking to her really like she's retarded or something, just like really slowly. And she's kind of looking at him strangely. And he's like, your English is really good, by the way. And I was like, it's better than yours, Patty. It's like, it really was better than it. Like, it's considerably better than his. He didn't even know that because Philippines is not really on the map for UK and Ireland, like I said. Yeah, he didn't really didn't even know that. He's like, do people speak English there? And I was like, yeah, really high level.
And then I think one of the other surprises is the other kind of former colonizer country of Spain and the long history that Spain has with the Philippines. I mean, I was in that same boat when I first started meeting Filipino people here in Canada. I was talking to them and I was like, hey, why is it that everyone has these Spanish names? I thought the Philippines was in Asia, but we have Eduardo and Jose and Teresa and Maria. And I'm like, why is that the case? And I had no idea like the, 300-year history that the Philippines had with Spain. And so, yeah, once you kind of get below the surface, there's such a rich history in the Philippines from different nations as well. And you can see that in the language, you can see that in the culture, you can see that in the food. It's a very interesting place. You've been in Makati for 6 years. At the beginning, you were making YouTube videos. Do you have a channel? Do you make content as well?
It was 2021 I started it. So 15th of March 2020, we went into a strict lockdown, and the exact same date the following year, things opened up a bit, and then 15th of March the following year went into a strict lockdown again. At that time, for the second one, I was single at the time, and I'd been on a Tinder date. So we met for coffee, then met again that night, and then a few days passed. So she lived in BGC. The news was going into hysteria again and saying there's more cases, we're going for another lockdown. When you live in these big buildings and it's got its own security, so they were implementing their own rules. The building would say no visitors, so you wouldn't get a visitor in, and you'd just be at home climbing the walls going insane by myself. So this girl who actually I started the YouTube channel with, we'd only been on one date. My building stopped allowing visitors. So I said, look, we'll go on a date tonight and then stay in my place. And then a couple of days later, we went into strict lockdown. So from our second date, we ended up living together for nearly a year.
Whoa.
Things opened up a bit, then closed down and opened up a bit of a roller coaster. So it was just in 2021 we started. She was like, oh, I want to do a couples YouTube. So I made a few videos and travels around when things opened up slightly. After a few months, she lost interest in it. So I just changed the theme a little bit to more sort of information that foreigners would find helpful coming to the Philippines. So, and travel stuff as well. So a bit like a Lonely Planet travel guide in a YouTube format. So come 2022, I ended up going back into into corporate world again. So I just the channel was left. So I haven't made a video in 3 years. So but no, I plan to rekindle that pretty soon, and sort of keep to that theme a little bit. And also, myself and a couple of friends, we formed a stand-up comedy sort of production team. So we started going to the main production team here for stand-up comedy. We found there's a lot of people. It was mostly in Tagalog as well. So you'd go to like an open mic or a show, and it's like nearly all in Tagalog. Very few comedians that would do English or English only. Then plus it was also always an all Filipino audience pretty much. So yeah, we started our own. So we called it Comedy Exiles, mixture of Filipino comedians and foreign comedians. And just here in Poblacion, Makati, once a week we do our open mic and sort of develop local comedians as well.
And so is comedy something that you did before getting to the Philippines, or how did you get started with that?
It's just something that's always interested me. So it's just something I thought, okay, I think I'm a pretty good writer, and that's generally the hardest part of it. So I think, okay, I've got that covered. So once you get up the first time, it gets a lot easier. It's just like losing your virginity sort of thing. So it's just getting the balls to get on stage for the first time and go, it wasn't so bad. And then it's just honing it and just keep on doing it.
I wanted to ask you, you said that you have done some trips around the Philippines. Like, I know you're based in Makati, but you've traveled around a little bit. Do you have like a favorite kind of vacation spot in the Philippines?
Well, the most spectacular I've been to is El Nido. So you've got El Nido and Coron beside each other on the island of Palawan. So doing the island hopping, taking the boat in the morning from El Nido and going to the different islands, and the big lagoons and things, that's certainly in the top 5 of most spectacular things I've ever seen in the world. The trip's probably best done as a couple. So I was with my girlfriend at the time. And then there's nothing all that great near Manila. If you're trying to find a nice beach or anything like that, it's quicker to just get on a plane and fly to an island. So Boracay is super popular. It's got the most beautiful white sand beach at Station 2. Luckily, I went there in 2020 when things opened up a bit, so there was no international tourists or anything like that. The place was empty. It was just perfect. But it's super packed now, super touristy. The amount of construction and development there is massive. So although it's beautiful, it's just too touristy for me these days. Siargao, I'm yet to go to, but it's kind of like a young European traveler backpacker type vibe. So it's on my list to do. I've been to a few places, but certainly El Nido would be up there.
And what makes El Nido so spectacular? Like, I mean, Palawan is like one of the highest recommended vacation spots. I've heard that from Filipinos all the time. Like, if you ask anybody, where should I go in the Philippines? They're always going to say Boracay and Palawan. Those are like the top 2 normally. What is it about Palawan that makes it so like spectacular?
It's just spectacular. I mean, it's like movie, the beach. So you go on the boats. It's only accessible by the boat tours. So especially one of the days I did it with my girlfriend, we chartered a boat. So we had a boat all to ourselves. So we got out an hour before everyone else. So I've made videos of it. So it's going to be probably one of my next YouTube videos that I put up is going to be there. So you're just going to these beautiful beaches that aren't accessible only by these tours. So very unspoiled. One is called the Secret Beach, and it's just a cliff face. And then just quite a small opening that you swim through. So you have to jump off the boat into quite rough waters, swim through this little tiny cave, and then it just opens up into this spectacular secret beach, as it's called. And then there's huge lagoons, turquoise water as well. So if you can get there before everyone else does, it's incredible. So once you see that, you get on the boat, 20 minutes later, you're in this other spectacular corner of an island or a new island, unspoiled nature.
I would love to go there, honestly. I wanted to do some more like water, beach related things when I was in the Philippines, but I mean, 3 weeks just isn't a lot of time, right? And so it didn't really happen that way. We ended up going to Bohol, and so we spent a few days on that island, and there is some beaches and stuff there, but I think we had 1 beach day, and so it wasn't a lot. But next time I go, I definitely want to hit up some really nice beaches, and probably like more in the southern part of the Philippines. That seems to be where a lot of that kind of like turquoise water is and stuff.
I was in Bohol, and my girlfriend and I, funnily enough, made a video about it as well. So we did an island hopping tour as well. So it takes you to this, I think it might be called Virgin Island, I'm not sure, but it's just this white sandbar in the middle of the ocean. So yeah, it was absolutely stunning.
Something that I am curious about, after living in the Philippines for 6 years, what is your favorite thing about Filipino culture, or maybe even just living in the Philippines in general? general?
I think there's maybe a couple of factors into this. It could just be city life as well. Living here, it's very easy to make friends, whether Filipino or expats. They're people that have generally reached some success in their life, a lot of them. So they're open-minded enough to travel and live abroad. So it's very easy to make friends with expats here. And then the Filipino people are generally sort of very welcoming as well. They're talkative, keen to chat, and in not all, but in most cases, I've found that it's just been very welcoming and easy to make friends. If I'd stayed in Ireland, basically my social circle, social life just fell off a cliff. So I think it's partly city, but I still think in other countries as well, even when people move to cities, they still find it more difficult to make friends, whereas the Filipinos are quite welcoming and easy to make friends with, and generally aren't just stuck to their social circle that they've known from school.
I mean, even in a city, there are more people to meet. Like, just mathematically, there are more people around. But the stereotype tends to be that city people aren't as friendly as small town people as well, right? So, yeah, I think that the city gives you more options, but not necessarily more friends everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? I think that might be a Filipino thing.
But yeah, certainly when I got here, I tried learning Tagalog, and I'm just not wired for it. And whenever I hear, and I can't tune my ears for languages, so whenever I hear Filipinos speak, I just hear 4 words repeated. All I hear is bada 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 deba. Sige, sige. That's all I hear. I just can't tune in at all to it. Yeah, there's often sort of a bit of disappointment when the Filipinos go, "Oh, how long have you lived here? 6 years? Oh, and you speak Tagalog?" No. You know, it's so when people can speak a bit of Tagalog, even just a few words, Filipinos really appreciate it, or they sometimes lose their shit over it. It's like, wow. So I'd imagine your travels as well, you got very welcomed for knowing a bit of Tagalog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I knew a bit of Spanish as well when I got here. People say, oh, you should pick it up easy. It's very similar to Spanish. And it's not, I mean, a few words are the same, but I generally found it wasn't. My favorite word in Tagalog is seguro, because it's a word I use quite a bit in Spain or Spanish. So if someone is like saying, nos vemos más tarde, 2:30, it's like, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow at 2:30. Yep, seguro, which is 100% guaranteed I will be there. So you say seguro a lot, like seguro, 100% will be there. In Filipino language, seguro means
maybe.
Yeah. So that was quite confusing.